Hi, Color Kids. This is Katie Carty-Hiley from RainbowBrite.net. Welcome back to the Rainbowland Museum. And as you can see, this way, I have a really special guest with me today. I've got Kevin Dilmore, who works for Hallmark. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for tracking me down. I mean, everyone doesn't know just what all we had to go through to actually get this video connection working, but totally worth it.
Totally. Thank you so much for being here. This is
very
fabulous.
Happy to be here.
So I've got Kevin here today to give us a little more information about the Rainbow Brite comic that is coming out next month. It's actually really soon. It's like,
oh my gosh, it's like a couple of weeks. Yeah,
well,
no, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Awesome.
A week from the easy way to get to this is October 3rd. Wednesday, October 3rd will be the day that it hits newsstands.
So be ready and go pre-order it if you haven't already at your local comic shop, because that's what I did and I'm so excited.
Wonderful.
We'll throw in a couple other questions that don't have to do with the comic as well.
Oh, no. This is why I'm here. I'm happy to talk. We're on topic. I mean, I'm not going to, sit and talk about HR Puff and stuff or something. We should stick to the topic.
But if you want to go off on a tangent, feel free.
Oh, believe me. Yeah.
So, Kevin, you and I met in 2016 at the Rainbow Brite Day celebration in Kansas City, where you were interviewing people who worked on the vintage line, Hallmark employees working on the current line of merchandise, and longtime fans for Hallmark's PopMinded division.
Yes.
And I was wondering, could you tell the fans how PopMinded got started, what its current focus is, and what else you do for Hallmark, just so they know a little more about you?
You know what? I will do that, but I'm gonna flip and reverse the order in which I do it.
Okay.
I'm a senior writer at Hallmark. I joined Hallmark in October of 2005. I started in the marketing division, which actually I take that back. I started in the creative division, but as part of what was called the Creative Design Studio, now the Creative Marketing Studio. And we were responsible for consumer contact. At the time, the studio wasn't doing TV, but they're even doing TV now. But my job was to work on direct mail pieces and email pieces and consumer, just anything to connect with the consumer, chiefly for keepsake ornaments. I was also I was a point person for the Keepsake Ornament Club, in that I was writing issues for Keeps. I was writing editions of the Dream Book annual catalog for keepsake ornaments. Basically anything that was connecting the consumer to keepsakes, I had a hand in for about 7 years, which was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people, learned a lot about Hallmark. It was a great place for me to kind of land in the company. To immerse myself in the brand as well as the products. Along the way, my manager, Trish Barong, who's a wonderful person, always encouraged me to accept opportunities outside the studio if I thought I could help. And she always said, do the things that are going to give you the most fun and make us the most money. And I thought, that's not a bad strategy. I can do that.
Yes.
So I started working with the licensing division of Hallmark, writing greeting cards and doing projects with keepsake ornaments as an advisor, or just if nothing else, the lifeline to the geek community to help people come up with ideas for keepsake ornaments. And in January of 2013, I migrated from the licensing studio to the actual writing studio. So Hallmark's writing studio, there's about 24 of us who are responsible for all sorts of writing, and I continue to support keepsakes and all of that.
Cool.
It's a great job. One of the things that I've been roped into since about 2016 was PopMinded. Okay, well, if you're going to drink, now I'm going to drink. We're all going to drink.
It's all good. Drinking on camera is fine.
It all works. The PopMinded Consumer Initiative was the brainchild of Christine Taylor, who is a licensing creative account manager. Although her title's changed a little bit, she's very much in charge of Hallmark's connection with the companies who have the intellectual property we license. Star Wars, Star Trek, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Harry Potter, Peanuts, whoever we're working with, for cards, for gift items, for books. That's one of the things that she does. She very much had an idea to try to curate the pop culture, items that we create that connect to a certain audience. So when we look at like the Venn diagram of what Hallmark does and what PopMinded does, it's not 100%. A Peanuts fan isn't necessarily going to discover Hallmark products through PopMinded. Neither would a Thomas Kincaid fan, somebody else we license or things like that. But superheroes, science fiction, other pop culture that we incorporate, like we've done ornaments for the TV show Dallas or Andy Griffith or Gone with the Wind. That isn't necessarily PopMinded. The idea was when we were going, and we started about 11 years ago, maybe close to 12, going to San Diego Comic-Con, and then later New York Comic-Con, now Star Wars Celebration, and the Star Trek official convention in Las Vegas, and other places. The more we showed up as Hallmark, the more people came to our booth, and the first question out of their mouth invariably was, "What's Hallmark doing here?" Then they would wander around and they would look at the items that we created that we're that key into characters and stories and universes that they love. They get it. However, once we started using PopMinded as our overarching, brand presence, it's not a brand. It's not even really a sub brand, but it's certainly a collection. That people would walk up and they'd see PopMinded and they'd see the things we were offering, and those questions went away. That some of them might not even realize that it's Hallmark, because the logo, when you look, it's PopMinded by Hallmark. Sometimes they don't even catch it. But we found a lot of great response. We were supporting it for a while with a weekly YouTube program that I think you've probably seen. It's still on YouTube if anybody wanted to just type in PopMinded by Hallmark. I don't know how many episodes we ultimately produced. We're on a hiatus right now. And it's just as we're trying to figure out how to best use our time and admittedly best use finances that are available to us to connect with people. A great way to stay connected with us right now is to either just follow Hallmark on Facebook, which I'm guessing a lot of your viewers do, or track us down on Instagram. PopMinded has an Instagram account, and we're consistently throwing things up there. A lot of fun. So that's PopMinded. Rainbow Brite has kind of been kind of a glancing blow with PopMinded for a while, because we just didn't know if the average consumer that's looking for Rainbow Brite is necessarily looking for Rainbow Brite at our booth. But we started off with the itty bitties, and people certainly responded to those. We don't have a full line of Rainbow Brite products when we go to the conventions, but we have some, and it's usually itty bitties. This year we've got something brand new, which I'm sure you would like to talk about, is the Rainbow Brite comic book, which seems like a really good fit for us while working with people in the comic book industry with expertise to bring the character to longtime fans as well as new audiences. And I really hope we've kind of found a way to split the difference and make it feel good for everybody.
That's so cool. Thank you. That's a lot of great background. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, wind me up and let me go, because I'll just blab and blab and blab.
Please do. I love it. So recently you told me on Twitter that you've been sitting on this project since the beginning of 2017. So first I just had to ask, how hard has it been to keep this massive secret?
I will tell it's a little bit. Well, remember first that my background is journalism. I worked as a newspaper reporter for 15 years before I came to Hallmark. I still regard myself as a journalist and will write in journalistic outlets when I can. So I protect my sources. I'm a vault. I can keep secrets, so that
Nice.
part wasn't hard. But when people would ask me why I was busy, what I was working on, why I'm not, one of my sidelines of working at Hallmark is that I've written Star Trek novels and short fiction for pocketbooks. I think the first time that my writing partner and I were published was in 2001. Although, well, maybe it was late 2000. I'm trying to remember.
Wow.
But why am I not working on Star Trek? Well, a number of factors, but one of them is I've been putting time into this. So yeah, that has been, and especially wanting to keep friends and people within the building apprised of what I'm working on, but wanting them to make sure that, hey, when I tell you this, don't run off to Twitter or Facebook and say, I heard the coolest thing. This grew out of a licensing agreement between us and Dynamite Entertainment, who ultimately is the comic book publisher who's creating it, because we have that agreement with them and they are responsible for the creative content. We're merely the approver at this point. Then the story is very much theirs to tell. We didn't want to rush out and start saying, hey, this is exciting, have everyone run to Dynamite and say, tell me more about it before they were ready. Yeah. So it's very much their story. You've spoken with Jeremy. I'm assuming that the people who are tuning in to listen to us blab around have already had a chance to listen to him. You're more than welcome to hit pause, go listen to that one, come back, or as soon as I'm done, if you're listening to me first, go back into the YouTube list and listen to Jeremy. So.
Yeah, that was a really great interview. He's so fun to talk to, and had a lot of great things to say.
He's been a wonderful asset and a very imaginative creator, and he takes being a custodian of Rainbow Brite, which we would not want to work with someone who doesn't. So it's been terrific having him on board.
Excellent. Well, that kind of goes into my next question. I was curious, when did this idea start kicking around at Hallmark, and whose idea was it, or was it Dynamite coming to you with the idea?
Well, actually, it started with us, and there'll be plenty of times that I say we. There'll be a few times that I say I, so I'm not looking to have my star polished or something. I'm not looking to, you are awesome. But there were a few things that did originate with me, and one of them was this. Back in March of 2017, I was invited to a brainstorm by several people working on the baby line of within Hallmark Retail, they basically said, we're going to be brainstorming ideas for Rainbow Brite. Bring your ideas and sit at the table, and we're going to talk. And so the conversation started going around the table. A lot of fun ideas, most of them regarding consumer products. We should do socks. We should do temporary tattoos. We should do iPhone emoji or image generators. We should do backpack hang tags, and we should do a makeup line. All the fun things that were going around. And when they got to me, I said we should do a comic book, and it got kind of quiet. And someone said, why that? And I said, because none of the ideas that we have to put the character on will mean anything to new consumers unless they know a story.
Yeah.
And a comic book will help us get a story out, and if we can lead the pack with that rather than just follow up on it, then people will come to us wanting all of the other things. And we'll have a market, we'll have an idea of how many to make, we'll have an idea of what to make. It's just, so started rattling that off, and they said, okay, next, and went to the next person, and there we were. I thought, all right, well, I did my due diligence. They asked me for the idea. I let it out there. That was it. About, I want to say 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks later, I got an email from the same group saying, "Hey, we'd like to continue to discuss ideas. If you'd want to, come in and join us for a meeting." And I was like, "Great." So I sat down, or showed up at the meeting, but instead of about 20 some people there were 3 of us, and
What?
they said, "You guys have the ideas we want to pursue."
Wow.
And I said, "Great," keeping well to myself that I knew next to nothing about the comic book industry beyond being a fan. At that point, I have co-written a comic book script since then, but at that point, I hadn't written for comics or anything.
Wow. But being in nerd culture as long as you have, I'm sure you've been exposed to them and
Yes.
know more than the average person.
Well, I don't know about, I'm maybe the average person, but certainly don't know more than anyone who is in the industry. And so the ideas, I think, that we sat down with, I think one was for I can't remember if Coleco came to us or if we started shopping the idea around. I think the iPhone emojis were part of that. There might have been one other thing that I can't come up with, but they said, "Okay, what do you need to get yours done? What do you need to get yours done?" And they turned to me and said, "What do you need to get yours done?" And I said, "Leave me alone."
Nice.
What?
Like,
I said,
I got this.
Cut me loose and leave me alone and let me talk to some people.
Mm-hmm.
I contacted a friend of mine at one comic book company who steered me to another comic book company. Ultimately, I contacted 5 different comic book companies saying, wow. And it was what you hear. And again, it's so funny. It was kind of a flashback to some of the PopMinded stuff. Only one of those companies, when I said, "Hey, what do you think about this idea?" did not come back to me with this question. "Well, yeah, but how do you know how to get in touch with the people who hold the license to Rainbow Brite?" Only one company didn't ask that, which again is just consumer. Rainbow Brite is not a property that many people, I would say the majority of people who are aware of Hallmark, do not know that Rainbow Brite was our intellectual property that we created, back in '83. Even actually, I think work on Rainbow Brite predates her introduction on things in '83.
Yep.
But I do not at all presume to know more about Rainbow Brite than you.
Well, I learned some things at Rainbow Brite Day celebration that I did not know before. So
that's the fun part. It all kind of unspools. But then when I explained, Hallmark owns Rainbow Brite, and I've been given charge by the people who manage the licensing out to plumb this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So of the 5 I contacted, there were 2 who wanted to meet with me at at San Diego Comic-Con,
Mm-hmm.
and I had brief discussions in person then in July of 2017. At New York Comic-Con in October of 2017, there was one comic book company who wanted to continue the meeting, and that ultimately was Dynamite Entertainment. And in talking with people since, I really do feel like that it was kind of, Kismet is kind of just really good fortune as far as the types of licenses that they have and the regard with which they hold comic creators, the ease of working with Dynamite has been tremendous. They're very much yes and collaborators. Now I realize that as the Hallmark representative, that I do kind of hold the trump card. I mean, we can come up with all these really cool ideas, but I still have to clear things through legal. I still have to clear things through the custodians of Rainbow Brite on our end. I really am more of a go-between and a broker. I'm kind of somebody who understands story and understands comics and understands what makes things work well. But there are plenty of other people in the building who understand the nuances and minutiae of Rainbow Brite better than me. But here I was in this position, and so it started to work, and we started to negotiate. There were a couple of bumps in the road on our end because there were some people who were leaving positions, moving to different positions. In fact, of the 3 people who initially contacted me to set me in charge of Rainbow Brite, one by one, they left their roles.
Oh no.
One person went to a different role, and I just kind of kept going. A second person left the company completely, and I just kept going. And a third person left his role to go to a different area of the company, and I thought, I've gone rogue. I'm answering to nobody right now, but I kept going, and I gathered a couple of people alongside me along the way, saying, "Hey, this is a project in motion." At one point in time, we thought the project was going to be dead, and I basically, what's the Scarlet O'Hara line? I've always depended upon the kindness of strangers. For whatever reason, I had people who either picked up on my passion for the project or my belief in Rainbow Brite and the storytelling possibilities that basically said, "Go, just keep going." And here we are.
Amazing.
It's when I sit back and look at it, it really is amazing. It's a testament to the number of people who also believe in it and just trying to connect this. You talk to 20 people and you get the 2 that say, "You know what, I think you're onto something," and you keep those 2 close.
Yes.
And you just keep going, and so here we are.
Wow.
We connected with a terrific and just wonderfully personable editor, Kevin Kettner, who signed on to this project and was just from the get-go interested in matching us with great creators, and so here we are. We're 2 weeks away from the first issue hitting the stands. It's on a monthly run, and I have read the script for issue 4. I have seen the covers for issues 1, 2, and 3. 4 is coming. Our artist, Brittany Williams, is in the midst of drawing pencils for issue number 2, and it's just it really is one of those. It's funny, but it really is one of those. Pinch me, is this real kind of things.
Yeah.
Every time something comes over email, that because of the belief in her and the storytelling possibilities of Rainbow Land and its characters, that this is happening. It's just a bunch of people who think she's cool.
Okay, massive shout out, thank you to all of you, especially you, Kevin, for not letting this die, and for your tenacity and dedication to it. Like, clearly this would not have happened without you.
I think it would. I will say this. There are a number of people who believe in the power of this property with as much passion as me, if not more. But I find ways to get people to say yes, and kind of a, what do we got to lose? I mean, she's sitting in a drawer.
Exactly.
And so there were people who gambled, and Dynamite is gambling on the storytelling ability in word and in art, with the people that they've gathered, that we're going to get a story that interests the readers of all ages. And for me, I mean, I'd be buying it. And I probably get 30, 40 titles a month of comics. I mean, I still am a very avid reader. I love being on this side of it as an approver. I'm certainly interested in continuing to be a creator at some level sometime down the road. I'm not lobbying for a job to write Rainbow Brite, because there's plenty of people who could do her justice better than me. But I'm certainly hopeful that this helps with my association with comics, and I'm having a lot of fun in that regard too.
I'm so glad, and again, thank you to the others that have helped you along the way and stuck with this. I want to give you all hugs right now.
Perfect. They get equal credit.
Yes. So, how many pitches did you receive from potential authors once you approached? Was it just Dynamite that the pitches came through?
Yes, I can't tell you how many people were interested in that part of it. There was a number of them that Kevin passed along to us for consideration. A lot of fun takes on Rainbow Brite. Certainly, pitches from writers who understood the power of the nostalgia of Rainbow Brite. Jeremy's pitch was one that showed us that he was interested in expanding elements, maybe elements of Rainbow Land or characters that that have been a little underutilized. And you can do the math. I mean, I am used to working in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. When you look at the issues of comics and the novels and I think they're between movies and the 7 now television series. I think we're looking at more than 800 hours of on-screen content for Star Trek, and that's just on screen. That's a lot.
Wow, yes, it is.
How many hours of Rainbow Brite on screen are we looking at?
Not many.
I mean, it's how many episodes of the cartoon?
13.
Yeah, so that's 6.5 plus
and then
the feature.
Movie. Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at 8 hours of the original content from the 80s, and then several hours of the couple of times that she's been attempted for relaunches. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of fun in there that maybe even characters that have never gotten their moments in the spotlight that mm-hmm. We might like. So and Jeremy absolutely was taking what he saw in his exposure to Rainbow Brite. I mean, he's certainly has been aware of the character since he was young.
Yeah.
Which that never hurts.
Yes.
There's been plenty of times that I've seen working in media tie-in writing where I've heard from an author saying, "I just got a contract to write a book about this show. I guess I need to start watching it."
Wow.
That's not to say that a person cannot tell a great story with a quick emergence. Look at the people who are writing television for the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I mean, those people were learning about those characters as they were creating them. Certainly the first season of any of the any TV show like that, you're gonna and so what little you know from TV has to go into a book or go into a comic, and people are writing those, and they're kind of walking a tightrope without a net. And we can mm-hmm. go back now after decades and look at that. That doesn't sound like Worf. Well, yeah, it doesn't now.
But at the time,
it was the best people had to create with, and it got approved. So,
wow.
But Jeremy's been great at not only capturing what feels like the essence of characters, but certainly kind of upping the ante to make them relatable, make them feel contemporary. I mean, in many ways, in my mind, Rainbow Brite is timeless. Mm-hmm. She's not aging, or at least in my mind, I don't think of her as somebody who's aging. If The Simpsons can get away with keeping Bart Simpson in third grade 30 years, then so can we.
Amen.
So there's lots of things that he in his pitch that made us see possibilities that we hadn't really even seen ourselves, and we thought, okay, this is somebody who believes in it like we do. We're interested. What's next?
Awesome. Well, you totally answered my next question too. So kudos.
Ripping right through your list.
Good job. First, a statement and then a question. Personally, I think a comic is a great approach for telling new Rainbow Brite stories that fans of all ages can enjoy. And I've seen fans lament the fact that there was not a Rainbow Brite comic for many years now. So again, I want to take this opportunity to thank you and everyone at Hallmark, at Dynamite, etc., who has made this happen. We are so thankful. And then I was curious, was the success of Hallmark's new Rainbow Brite merchandise partially responsible for this comic's creation, for it coming to pass?
I can't say specifically yes, why, mm-hmm. But I am confident that if there was not a positive consumer response to the products we were putting back in stores, then there wouldn't be faith in the character. And if there wasn't faith in the character and her power to reach and connect with people, then they wouldn't have given me the opportunity to see if somebody else was interested. We do not want to get in the comic book business. Now that said, if things go really well with Rainbow Brite and someone knocks on the door and says, "What else you got?" I'll show them Shirt Tales. I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, there's all sorts of fun things out there that build on some nostalgia, but also give us the foundations of some fun characters that we can make really cool these days. So yes, everyone's support of Rainbow Brite's products, coming back into stores, absolutely influences or at least warms the water.
Yeah.
For someone to say, "This is cool. I wonder what else would be cool."
Nice.
So thanks to everybody out there for their support of making that happen. So
yeah,
everyone gets a pat on the back for where we are right now, including the people who've believed in Rainbow Brite, and sometimes even with more fervency than some of us in the building might have had. So that's really cool.
Yeah, so huge thanks to all the fans out there that have also been purchasing these things along with me.
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of us, and see, we make things happen when we support our girl. That's how it works. So yeah, huge.
We do listen, and to be honest, the advent of social media has helped us listen much more easily.
Yeah.
And to seeing the people that are out there still celebrating, her and the other characters. When we did, Jeremy joined us at our PopMinded booth to sign Rainbow Brite promotional posters that we were giving away at Comic-Con International in San Diego in July, and there was even a mom who came dressed as Rainbow Brite with her daughter in a stroller dressed up as Twink.
Oh my God! I love
not
it.
Get their names or permission to use their likenesses, so I wasn't able to share that. It was one of those. I was so excited, took a picture. Jeremy signed a poster. We all thought wasn't that cool, and it was like 5 minutes later. I thought, I'll never be able to use that picture because I never asked her what her name was. So,
well, Mom, if you're listening, let us know.
If you're watching and listening, let us know if I have described you at San Diego Comic-Con. Let us know and we can talk. I will be smarter. I promise I will be smarter about that in a couple of weeks at New York Comic-Con. That I will snap some photos of the Rainbow Brite love that we plan on showing, and hopefully people will show up in costumes and have some fun.
Awesome. Love it.
We can talk about that later. Don't let me leave without telling you.
It's on the list.
That we'll be able to accomplish in New York.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to answers to those questions for sure. So you said that you've already read, was it the first 4 issues? Yes. Okay. Just what's your opinion so far?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's been fun. Well, I say it's been fun. I guess Kevin and Jeremy need to decide for themselves whether it's been fun working with us, but we think it's fun working with them. And,
awesome.
And we knew, and we all knew going in that sometimes it's I won't know what I really want until I see it. There's a frustration that comes with somebody who says, paint my house, and you say, okay, so you paint the outside white from blue, and they walk up and say, no, what I wanted you to do was paint my kitchen. Well, okay, kind of wish you told me that, but all right, so you go again. And we certainly have not walked into situations like that. But the things that we're doing now is definitely getting out of the way for Jeremy's world building ideas. There's a little bit of tweaks here and there that we want to make. There's tweaks to dialogue. We definitely want and Jeremy. And I'm not saying that we are pushing it on him. He is absolutely making a book that feels diverse, that feels inclusive, that feels like, with a name like Rainbow Brite, you don't want somebody to open up the pages of that book and feel like it's a world in which I don't belong.
Absolutely.
That would really hurt, to have someone say, I read this and there's no room for me in it. I know you don't want that.
No.
So we're making sure, even right down to just some of the word choices that Rainbow uses. I should say wisp, because in our world, the way things are going right now, she, we're definitely regarding her as wisp. There was somebody who said, and I think it's just a great distinction, and of course comic book fans may disagree. But when you're asking about the difference between Superman and Spider-Man, which sometimes is the difference between DC and Marvel, Superman assumes the role of Clark Kent because he feels he has to. But Peter Parker assumes the role of Spider-Man because he feels he has to. Do you see the difference? Peter Parker regards himself as a person who puts on the suit and just is himself with the protection of the suit, to be helpful and present. Kal-El regards himself as a Kryptonian among humans, who puts on the suit of Clark Kent and walks among us because he wants to understand us better. So see the flip-flop? So we're really kind of in this place where right now, in my mind, it's absolutely the approach of Wisp learning who she is when she's Rainbow Brite, just as Peter Parker learned who he is when he's Spider-Man, as opposed to, say, Superman, who knew who he was, and had to keep that from people, and when you go back to the original movie in 1978, he's just like, one of the great conflicts that young Clark has is, I've got all these powers and I couldn't save my dad. That's a huge thing, when it comes to molding who he is, and why he makes the choices that he makes, specifically in that movie, where he did not have the ability to even fly his dad to the hospital because he was so afraid of being who he was. And yet when Lois was trapped in the when the fault line opened and closed her up in the car, Superman was so sure of who he was and so sure of what he could do, he literally, in the movie, not in the comics, I know this kids turned back time to save a life that mattered to him. See nuances and differences of the characters and how you approach. I love Jeremy's rendition of Wisp. She's the kid I wish I was.
Nice.
She's fun. She's bold with her imagination. She is respectful. She cares about people. She is confident. Oh my gosh, that's one of the coolest things about her is that she's just really confident, but not foolhardy. And there's a difference. When life events change for her, she really has this wow. Okay, and then it's not sitting in, and I don't know what's going to happen with Shazam. I don't know if all of you have seen the trailer for the Shazam movie that's coming out in spring. It's terrific. But Shazam, when the character was created, contemporary with Superman, a little kid who says the magic word, it becomes Captain Marvel, and he's this confident, brash superhero who knows all his powers and this and that. Well, back not long ago, DC Comics did kind of a retrofit with Captain Marvel, who I guess we now just call Shazam because Marvel has Captain Marvel and it's all complicated. Anyway, when Billy Batson says Shazam and becomes the hero, he still has the mind of a young man. It's like Big. It's like Tom Hanks in Big.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, everyone does. Well, Shazam is basically Superman plus Big. It's gonna be great. Watch the trailer. It's gonna be so fun. But Billy has to learn not to be a hero, but to be himself in light of the new powers and responsibilities. It very much is, by definition, a coming-of-age story. It's no different from we understand how our powers and responsibilities change when we get a driver's license.
Yeah, okay. That totally makes sense.
So Wisp is definitely, in that part of her story. And when you see somebody face with confidence is the challenge of changing and growing, then we do too.
Oh, I love it. Just the way your face lights up when you talk about her, just
It's. I mean, it's. The thing is that we all kind of imprint on our favorite characters. We take a little bit from each of them and identify with this character because this. Identify with this character because this. And I think that Jeremy and certainly I do not want to take anything away from Brittany and her visuals. Yeah. And the colors and everything about it. I just feel like that she is somebody that everyone, regardless of gender, regardless of age, is going to find a way to connect with, and that's because of them, not because of me. It's kind of like just making sure that okay, we're going to stay on track. Okay, nope, over here. Okay, nope, we're going to go. I mean, but we hope we're providing a wide enough track that they feel some creative confidence and support from us as the license holders, but with not such a narrow band that it makes them lose the fun in telling stories.
I think you're doing a great job. When I talked to Jeremy, he was talking about how much freedom you had, or Hallmark had given him, not just to stick to the original canon. He can go outside it, do his own thing a little bit.
Spoiler alert, we're probably going to be changing some names.
Yeah.
We're looking at changing some names of some of the characters, and we haven't quite landed exactly who may get a name change. And the way I promise, number one, it's not going to be something so radical and drastic that people won't know who the character is. Number two, it's definitely not changes of characters, maybe accentuations of things in a character, but yeah, so I mean, it's something that we are taking to heart with what has come before, but we definitely want to be relatable to the core audience that we would love to attract to this, which is young readers who have only either tangentially experienced Rainbow Brite in passing by seeing an image, or are being brought to the character and the universe by a parent who loved it when he or she was young.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of parents doing that these days. They'll buy the DVD with the episodes on it that Hallmark sells now, and it makes my heart just explode with joy every time I see like a picture online of a little kid watching Rainbow Brite. It's just like,
oh yeah, it's something I take responsibility for myself. The Hallmark's given me opportunities to write children's books for Batman, for Superman, Aquaman, really the entire Justice League, Crypto the Superdog, one of my absolute favorite characters growing up. Still love Crypto. Try to work him into almost every Superman story I tell. So there's all sorts of characters that I have to. Even the Joker. I've got a new Joker book coming out for Hallmark later this month. It's actually in stores now, so you can look for it. But there are going to be young people who this could be the introduction to a hero that could spur their interest or shut them down. If my Superman story is kind of dumb and boring, then that kid might not want to pick up the next Superman story. And Superman was a greatly influential character for me when I was a kid. I take that responsibility. I want somebody, even if it's a 40-page story that's told in limericks. I want which is exactly what these books are.
Nice.
I hope that the reader comes away with a sense of who Superman is, who Aquaman is, and even who the Joker is.
Oh, I love it, and I love limericks, so I might have to check that out myself.
Please do. They're actually, You know what? I've got one in the other room. They're about yay big. I mean, it's which I'm sure. Yeah, everybody's. Oh no, I know exactly what I'm looking for. They're yay big, but they're kind of palm sized. That are shaped just like the character. We've got 10 of them coming out. 6 DC superheroes: Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, the Joker, and Harley Quinn are our 6 DC heroes. We also have Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and we have Rudolph and Bumble, the abominable snowman. So
nice.
That's what we're opening with our 10. I can tell you who I'd lobby for number 11. I'm guessing you know who I'd say. If these books prove popular, then that certainly is a story that I would lobby for, and one that I would very much like to tell myself. So,
awesome.
Cross your fingers. Yes. But those are each story is told in a series of limericks. When you open up their hardbound books, like the board covers, like you would give a young person, and when you open it up, inside, kind of in the tummy, is 40 pages of story that is all told in limerick. And I think it's really fun when you read it out loud.
Yeah.
You kind of get into the sing-songy rhythm.
Yeah.
It's funny, but you start to think it, just talking. The sing-songy rhythm of limericks, da 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 da, and then you start writing. Superman saves the day. Everyone shouts hooray. You just start to, you just can't. Yeah, my brain. Yeah. Next question, please. Next question.
Okay, next question. Let's see, where were we? So, you just mentioned how this is targeted toward children, which it should be. But I know Jeremy, I think, alluded to there would be at least some nuggets of nostalgia for us older fans who are also going to be checking it out. Yeah, so I was just curious, because I know personally, like you've said, you're a huge fan of Star Trek. And over the years, you've seen all of the reboots and reimaginings, and I'm sure you're aware that fans can sometimes be critical when things change. And because they're resistant to it, they're not sure if they're comfortable with it because it's something they grew up with or whatnot. I just wondered if you had any nuggets of wisdom to share with those fans, just to maybe quiet their minds a little bit, tell them it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. I can only speak from my own approaches, and I will admit that I'm 54, so my approaches have mellowed in time. But here are the things I believe about that stuff. Number one, I think that sometimes a fandom can turn toxic. I think that people will push to hang on to what they want and what feels like was theirs. I never deny anyone the emotional connection that they've got. I mean, Mr. Spock was the guy who helped me kind of process my parents' divorce. With the understanding that I didn't need to close off and shut down and get cold, because it is not true to say Mr. Spock doesn't have emotions. It is true to say that Mr. Spock uses discipline to control his emotions, not express his emotions, but they definitely inform what he says and does internally. And so that really helped me understand that I can feel emotions and express emotions. I don't necessarily need to run around angry. Okay, so I hope that if this isn't for you, and it may not be, that it would never sour you on Rainbow Brite as a whole. Where I promise you that any decisions that are made with this story we are not going to come knocking on your door and say, will you please give me all of your memorabilia from your youth, including the DVDs of your stories, because they don't count anymore. And that is not another thing. So that part two. Every story counts. Don't ever let somebody tell you that because we are going to tell stories in this direction, which means we are not going to look in that direction anymore. those stories absolutely count. Those are creative endeavors by people who poured themselves into a tale and immersing themselves in characters that you read and you loved, and no one's going to take that away. I'm looking forward to, on the 19th of October, the new Halloween movie. I'm a huge Halloween fan. I know that there's not many people, there's not a lot of crossover audience between Rainbow Brite and Michael Myers, but I'm a fan. The original movie, 1978, scared the dickens out of me. I saw it when I was 13 or 14 years old on HBO. Didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters, and have rectified that since. But I'm a huge fan. The new movie that's coming out with Jamie Lee Curtis in a couple of weeks is positioning itself as a direct sequel to the original film. So Halloween 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, the two Rob Zombie movies, which of course were separate anyway. None of that is going to inform this movie. And that's okay, because I think that every generation should have the permission to create their heroes in their own image. The people who are writing for this generation, who are going to appeal to young kids, they have different pressures, they have different experiences, they have different tools at their disposal. Their lives are different, and we have an opportunity to show them through storytelling how what Rainbow Brite stands for applies to them. I wouldn't necessarily be able to hand them a DVD of cartoons from 1983 and hope that it connects. The same with Star Trek. The J.J. Abrams movie that is almost 10 years old now. It's crazy to think about it, but it's closer.
Wow.
It was summer of 2009. So as we roll toward the summer of 2019. But I sat in that theater with my daughter on one side of me and my father on the other. First time that three generations had experienced Star Trek in general together, and we all walked away thinking it was great.
Awesome.
Pardon me. So I mean, that does not take away the William Shatner performance. Mm-hmm. It certainly doesn't take away the great storytelling of Gene Roddenberry or Gene Kuhn or Harlan Ellison or I'm starting to rattle off people, Norman Spinrad, Theodore Sturgeon. I mean, people who had informed Star Trek. That just as every iteration of Twilight Zone doesn't mean that the stories of Charles Beaumont and Rod Serling don't matter. We're getting a new Twilight Zone on CBS All Access, who is being supervised by Jordan Peele, who we all know as a comedian from Key and Peele, but he also did Get Out, which is a great. It's a scary movie, but it is absolutely a Twilight Zone episode, and it is exactly why he got the job.
Nice.
So I'm rambling all over the place, but I do want to assure people, number one, that that I think this is for you. If I'm wrong, then I hope that there'll be something that helps a person get to, yeah, this isn't for me, but it is for somebody else. And and when you connect with those people that it is for, you have the chance to say, now let me show you where Rainbow Brite came from. Let me show you why she appealed to me. Let me show you this thing and these toys and all this stuff and why she meant something to me when I was growing up. And you're going to connect that way, if nothing else. There's plenty of people who say Doctor Who. Doctor Who, the doctor that we tend to connect with more often than not is the first one we saw. It's the same with Star Trek. I mean, for everybody who thinks the original series is the one and only, there are plenty of people who sat down and watched Star Trek: The Next Generation with their parents because they were fans of the original, and they think that Captain Picard and Riker and Worf and Data and Geordi and Crusher and Troy, I mean, that's their crew. Mm-hmm. I was watching a talk by Lorraine Newman on TV or on the computer a few days ago, speaking about Saturday Night Live, and she said to everyone, the cast of their adolescence is the greatest cast, and she would never deny that to somebody, because it's opening up. You can say that on TV, and all of a sudden, I think Dan Aykroyd's the best. I think Will Ferrell's the best. I think oh man, I'm blanking. I can see the name.
I know
Kate McKinnon. I think Kate McKinnon's the best, or the wonderful, and I will tell you this on a quick sidebar. The Saturday Night Live has if nothing else, if somebody ever once comes to me and says women aren't funny, I will smack them in the forehead. Saturday Night Live has I hope, given, at least apparently to me as a fan, given opportunities not only to women as performers, but women as writers, women as behind the scenes people. It's Heidi Gardner, who's new to the cast, is a Kansas City native. I'm actually friends with her brother. She is just dazzling to me every day, or every time I see her, with the energy that she brings to the show. So yes, it's different. Heidi isn't Gilda. I don't want her to be Gilda. I've got Gilda on TV every time I want to watch her. And this Rainbow Brite, is she going to be exactly the same? Part of me hopes not, because Superman isn't exactly the same as he was when he started. Neither is Batman. Neither is Indiana Jones, or Han Solo, or the characters that we grew up with that meant something to us. There are some characters that when they change, as much as I enjoy Star Wars, I don't need it to do the heavy lifting for me when it comes to meaningful, life-changing stories. I find those in other places. I just want to be transported to an exciting world and see kind of epic, mythic, storytelling tropes, and I feel like the new movies have done that for me. Rainbow Brite, I do think, has an ability to do some heavy lifting for kids, in the sense of, this is how you treat people. This is how you find value in yourself. This is how you set a goal that feels ambitious with the confidence that you can get it done. Those are stories that we all can use.
Yeah.
But 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are, life's moving pretty fast already for them. Imagine moving from an elementary school setting to a middle school setting, and the social stuff that happens not just online but in interactivity. There's a lot of things that WISP is going to be experiencing, maybe not specifically in as I've spelled them out, but certainly metaphorically, that a kid's going to be able to read this and take away and maybe feel a little bit better. Wouldn't it be cool if people are wearing Rainbow Brite shirts to school like there were Wonder Woman shirts to school, or Captain Marvel shirts to school? Or the Wasp, who I think has been it was a wonderful, wonderfully realized version of the character in the new movie. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully it's something we'll enjoy. But if not, then it's okay. It's not. We are absolutely not attempting to create something with the hope of hurting your feelings.
Exactly. We're always going to have our old show, our old merch. If this, like you said, if it isn't for you, it isn't, and that's okay.
You know what? It also
judgment.
Means exactly, and it also means that it doesn't mean the next one won't be.
Yeah.
As we look into the future, and I really want there to be a future for Rainbow Brite. When your and my worries are over, I want the young people who are creating comics now to be my age and handing the baton back down to the kids who were inspired by Rainbow Brite, who now want to tell their stories. I'll be honest, that I think would be one of the most flattering things that a creative person can experience, is to come up with a drawing or a story that features a character that inspires somebody so much that he or she wants to tell the next stories. Yes. How cool is that?
Absolutely.
Yes, that's so. If I do nothing else, with my little sliver of influence on the world of Rainbow Brite. If I do nothing else, then light a fire in somebody to do the next thing with her. That's really all I'm looking for. Really is all I'm looking for.
I love it. You're great. You're great.
You're the best. You are. I can't thank you enough for carrying the torch of letting people know that it's cool to embrace her. And as I've said before, even at times that we might not have been the place to get that assurance, you and other fans have been that place to get the assurance. So thank you for that.
Aw, thanks. I love Rainbow Brite so much. I can never let her go. It's impossible. She's imprinted on me so hard that we're one and the same almost. So let's see, what was my next question? So over the course of the past year, you mentioned this earlier, we've seen Hallmark begin to branch out with Rainbow Brite licensing to include the Coleco game, the Funko Pop vinyl figure, the licensed costumes, which are about to come out.
And
now,
just as a sidebar, I appreciate that people, get a lot of self-worth and self-identity, making their own Rainbow Brite costumes. I would never want to take that away from somebody if they want to do that. Cosplay is important. But I really like that there's something out there now that we have approved.
Yes.
That's sometimes there's rainbows out there wearing a little less than I might want Rainbow to wear.
Yep.
So I'm very happy that that's a place that our licensing out department wanted to go first.
And I can already tell you that fans are very grateful, because there are so many of us who love to dress up, but we have no skills in the sewing department, and it can be expensive to hire someone to make something for you. So
there is a shirt hanging in my car because there's another writer at Hallmark who has promised to sew a button on it for me. That's how awful I am on that kind of a thing. I'm dragging a shirt around to please sew a button for me. Yeah. I'm right with you, Katie.
So I think it's going to be hugely successful. I'm stupid excited to see people wearing it.
Cool. Me too.
I was just curious, are there any other current plans for licensing that you can tell us about?
There's the only reason I say that I can't tell you is because I'm not aware of them.
Okay.
I really think, and with my conversations with people in licensing out, is that the choices that John Nens and Andy Olson before him, the people who were kind of rolling the dice on the next iteration of where we want Rainbow Brite to live in consumer products. I think they made some great choices. I really do. The products that were introduced at Hallmark, Funko. Oh my gosh, to have Funko recognize Rainbow Brite as among a worthy pop culture character to bring into that, and I know that the people who have been able, she's kind of hard to find. It's Funko Pop, but the people who've been able to track it down are happy with it. I think the Coleco game is just fun. It's just goofy fun. It definitely is.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's very transporting back to the days when our hopes of bringing a console video game home were this big and a joystick this big, but we didn't care because we were staring into that screen. It felt like the real thing.
Yep.
And the comic book for sure. I'm hopeful that if the products that are relatively new out there now attract people to Rainbow Brite as a whole, then maybe that might encourage people to come to us with ideas for, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? I'm not saying this to even plant the seed, but I will say, wouldn't it be cool if the Rainbow Brite comic book got so popular with people that maybe they wanted action figures or things that look like Wisp looks in the comic and the other and other iterations, and wouldn't that be neat? So or T-shirts, or whatever. So I'd love to see some of the cover art for the comic, show up in places that aren't just the comic, if that's something that Dynamite's able to, or Paulina, the artist, is able to do. So yeah, who knows?
Cool. Love it. Let's see. And okay, I think I already know the answer to this from things you've said in this interview and from something you mentioned to me the other day. But yeah, so will Rainbow Brite be at Comic-Con?
Yes.
New York City Comic-Con.
Yes.
So the comic and people working on her?
Yes, that's the way. I can tell you the plans that we've got right now. Okay. And actually we haven't even really announced this yet, so you guys are the first. But I'm pretty sure these are not going to change. We will have one of the Rainbow Brite covers. There are alternate covers for the first issue that are going to be available at local comic book stores. There is one cover that is a Hallmark exclusive that is going to be available at New York Comic Con. We've got a limited press run on that comic. When it sells there, what we don't sell at New York Comic Con will end up online. So there will be opportunities for, admittedly, a limited number of fans to get that cover. Now, the art will still be available. I mean, if as Rainbow Brite issues are collected into a graphic novel, which they ultimately will be, then any art that's produced for the comic will be available in that. So I mean, anybody who is unable to get like the first issue with that particular cover, then you'll have that art somewhere down the road if you can't track that one down. So there'll be two opportunities to get that, one online, assuming that we don't totally sell out at New York Comic Con, which it'd be great, but I think some are going to end up online. So at our booth, PopMinded by Hallmark booth, we are going to have a couple of signing events for the creators of Rainbow Brite. I'm pretty sure that they are going to take place at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to. Hang on. Yes, I think Friday at 4. Oh shoot, Katie! I knew I was going to blow this. Anyway,
I can release those details.
I'll get the information on the times. But on the Friday of the convention, which is October 5th, and the Saturday of the convention, October 6th, we're going to have a number of people from Dynamite there to sign the issue. Jeremy Whitley is committed for sure. Kevin Kettner, who is our editor, I believe is going to be there. I believe a production artist, Alexis, whose last name is escaping me, who's figured prominently in helping us out, especially with the first issue. I believe she's going to be there. I've heard rumors that at least one of the cover artists could be there. I'm pretty sure Brittany is not going to be able to make the trip to New York, so I don't think she'll be there. I know. I might have to just send a stack of books to, I believe she lives in California, and send a stack of books for her to sign just for my own files. But so we'll have those. Our refurbished, nostalgic Rainbow Brite costume with the big oversized head.
The mascot's gonna be there.
Yes, costume will be there.
So cool.
Or I guess I should say Rainbow Brite will be there.
Yes.
So we absolutely encourage people to stop by and visit. Get a comic signed. There will be other issues, other versions of the comic that will be available for sale at the convention, but the one that we'll be carrying at PopMinded is what we're calling a Hallmark exclusive. That is really kind of a convention exclusive as well.
That's so exciting! Oh my gosh!
It's a great way to kick her off, and we couldn't ask for better timing. With the Wednesday newsstand and the Thursday the show opens.
That's so cool. You couldn't have planned that any better.
No. Thank you, Dynamite.
Yes. And I'm sure there are going to be several other fans like myself that will have to have every single variant, and it's going to be fun.
Yes, it'll be fun. I think that in the back of the newsstand issue, they're going to print just a collage of all the variants, so people know what to look for. If
good.
I'm off the top of my head, I believe there's going to be 4 available at comic book stores. There's the newsstand cover. There is a variant cover by a different artist that has more of a nostalgic look. There's what we call the classic cover that is art from our archives of Rainbow Brite and Twink. And then there is a 4th cover that is totally white. That would allow you to go to a convention if you ever see Brittany, or if you ever see anybody else, a favorite artist, or yourself. If you'd like to draw your own cover for Rainbow Brite #1, you got that right there, and then our exclusive cover.
Well, and then there's going to be the 3 virgin versions of those 3 that will not have any text on them.
That's true.
Found that out recently, and I was like, wait, what? That's a thing?
Oh. It is a thing. So there's all sorts of things to chase down for those who are interested in chasing down. But I will share this. The insides are all the same. I promise you, it won't be something like I've got to buy this video at Target, because they're including the extra DVD that has the extra scene that nobody else is going to get unless I go to Target. We're not going to deny content to anybody. I very much want everyone to read what they've created.
Excellent, love it. While I have you, I have to ask, and you
Sure.
may not know, but do you know if we'll be getting a Canary Yellow and Spark Itty Bitty anytime soon?
Great question. I don't know. I'm happy to put that forward. In fact, the person, or I think 1 or 2 people from who are part of the Itty Bitty creation team are going to be with me and with us. I think we've got a crew of like 15 or 17 people from Hallmark who are going to New York Comic Con, and he is among them. So I will place the proverbial Sprite in his ear and see if we can make that happen. Canary Yellow is underrepresented for sure.
Yes.
So.
Yep. We don't have her or her Sprite, so our rainbows are missing yellow, and it just doesn't look right without yellow.
Nope. I can't agree more. And dying a Twink just isn't going to cut it.
That's right. Well, you've already said you're going to be at New York Comic Con. Are there any other conventions you will be attending that fans could see?
No. This will be my last one for the calendar year. I know that we're already planning conventions for 2019. I believe it's safe to say, again, I'm going to talk out of school a little bit. I think it's safe to say that we will return to San Diego in 2019, to New York in 2019, to the official Star Trek convention in Las Vegas in 2019. I know that we're planning to attend Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City.
Ooh.
Hometown base.
Cool.
This will be our 3rd consecutive year with PopMinded in Kansas City. Actually, I take that back. It might be our 4th. It might be our 4th. And that is, I want to say, March 29, 30, 31 of 2019 here in Kansas City. If anybody wants to make the trip. A lot
easier to get tickets to that one than San Diego.
Well, I will say this. Yes, San Diego tickets are difficult to come by. I think New York tickets are a little bit easier to come by. But yeah, that does not mean that we want to totally deny the experiences of what we got for Rainbow Brite. So awesome. At least in this format, I'm positive that you won't be left wanting.
Awesome, glad to hear it. And last question, where can fans follow you online? And is there anything else you want to plug while you're here?
Yeah, I'll plug. Well, I kind of already plugged my new Hallmark books, which I don't know that, we call them, character heads. We call them big characters. We call them big heads. I don't know if they've got a real name, but they're really fun books that I talked about, and those are going to be popping up in stores later. I will say that when it comes to social media, I will caution my friends, my newfound friends in Rainbow Land. My opinions are solely my own. I sometimes can get a little political. I sometimes can, I might not use the same kind of language that Wisp uses. Thankfully, she's much more in control of how she speaks than me.
So you're for the adult followers. No kids should follow you on Twitter.
Followers, as I remind people over and over again, I'm not for everybody. But if you would care, I would love to see you on Facebook. I'm old enough that Facebook is still my social media of choice, and I think I'm the only Kevin Dilmore out there. 1L Dilmore. I also am on Twitter as Kevin Dilmore. I also am on Instagram as Kevin Dilmore. And as I was telling somebody yesterday on Instagram, I have numerous followers on Instagram. I have yet to post a single thing. So, and I've been on it because I joined it because PopMinded, and that's something else too. Please follow us on PopMinded.
Yeah.
In Instagram for sure. I think that in the Hallmark page, we certainly, I know that our Rainbow Brite page is still operating. I don't know how often it gets updated, but we certainly want that to be a place for fans to congregate. And I invite everyone in whatever channel of social media you would care to use. Please let me know what you think of the comic. Please let Dynamite know what you think of the comic. Follow Dynamite on Twitter, and Jeremy's on Twitter. Don't be. I want to say, be honest with your opinions. Nobody wants mean talk. So if it's not for you,
respectful.
It's okay to say yes. It's okay to say it's not for me. It's okay maybe to say why. It's not okay to tell me that my haircut's funny and that I'm just an old has-been or whatever sad thing. I have feelings too.
Yes, we all do, and everyone should respect them. Keep it in mind, Killer Kids. Thankfully, the fandom of Rainbow Brite is magnificent. It's so rare that I ever see a negative comment, or even if I do, it's followed up with no offense meant, but I think this. Very rarely does somebody just come out and say something super negative with no constructive criticism behind it. And even when I respond to those who do, they're typically very respectful in their responses to me. So we're super lucky, and I fully understand that and appreciate it because I've been in other fandoms where that's not the case. So again, huge thanks to all the Rainbow Brite fans who have been so wonderful to me and the other fans over the years. Yes. We wouldn't have any of this happening if it weren't for you. So
absolutely agree.
Thanks. But thank you so much for spending your morning with me. This has been great.
That was terrific. Well, you're always engaging company. I knew this would be fun. But and as the stories progress, or especially once we get done with the 5-story arc and head toward a graphic novel, I'm always happy to come back. If we want to chat more about where the comic is landing for everybody a few issues down the road, be a lot of fun.
Awesome. We'll plan on it.
Thanks.
Well, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And
why, thanks. I get to see my grandson today, so that's always a bonus. Always a bonus.
Have fun.
So much.
Thank you.